So, is this global IT outage any kind of wake up call? Are some of these movies and Netflix series any kind of wake up call if you actually pay attention to the storyline? I mean, when I've binge watched Dexter, which was really interesting, and Suits, and all these different Netflix series, I'm like, oh my God, I see a pattern here. And then watching that video about the Austin serial killer, which I made a point yesterday to watch. I made a point to watch it because I knew there was something to it, because it matched all the other characteristics of questionable reactions from law enforcement when somebody was regulated by someone or something. And even the whole George Floyd situation that sparked an outrage. Yeah, police. See, here's the thing. Police, before in the old world, they were under the impression they were protecting people from bad people. Well, maybe, I guess, okay. On some level, I suppose. I guess if you're in the vicinity and you have a policeman at your job and they're just sitting there drinking coffee, then yes, they will protect you because they'll be a deterrent. No one's going to rob a place with a policeman sitting in their house or sitting in your establishment. But if they're not there, who's going to protect you? The police can't be everywhere, around everything, but now you're going to see they have the internet and surveillance and the cameras be the police when you think about it. But the police were never there, and they're to protect you 100%. And the medical holistic system was not there to protect you from disease. Well, I guess you could say that death is the ultimate protection from disease because you won't feel anything, right? But the medical holistic system was there to protect the people around you from your disease. So you didn't take out people who were innocent because you were going through the throes of cancer disease and chronic illness and unpredictable behaviors. And so watching that video about that serial killer and the victims were all types of people. The same kind of people that I've been having an issue with. Those are so kind and gentle. That are such lambs that are completely, so innocent and just oblivious to how dangerous the world is. That they have to have money in order to have 24-hour guards stand around them, protecting them from the outside world that serves to try to take over their body, mind, and spirit. And that's why those who have a lot of money in high levels of government and politics, religion, science can afford, because they have money, can afford to have 24-hour protection. But that's protecting the people who are running our society, guiding us in specific directions and high levels of government. People like us, just the lay person, we have to learn how to protect ourselves. The system is watching us, making sure we're not destroying our society. And so when you think about what George Floyd represented, is what the policemen actually were meant to be. They weren't meant to go and absolve your children of their ignorance by always being there, Johnny on the spot. There's no fucking way they can do that. To have every single person out there be protected by the police, you would have to have one policeman for every single person. So if you have 300 million people, then you need to have 300 million police officers standing outside of your window protecting you from some nefarious person. It's not the case. We have a lot of people who lack integrity, a lot of people who are dangerous, a lot of people who put out a front like they're so respectable, but in the background, they'll freaking knife you if given the opportunity. And that's what I've noticed, which is probably why I felt such dis-ease and unease around my society, why I never fit in, because I saw through the bullshit right off the bat. But then you're like, well, God, I gotta fit in somewhere. But that only lasts so long until you start, your gut tells you there's danger, but you don't know where it is, what it is. You can't even put your finger on it, but you know that people are actively resisting you. And it's such a subconscious thing. It's a spiritual thing. And so, yeah, I've definitely been very disenchanted with my society. And that's why I don't have women friends, because women were taught to be looking presentable on the front end, right? Like a racket. But underneath all of their plastic surgery and their fakery and their kindness and their love and their activism and saviorism, underneath is brewing a storm that would knife you if given the opportunity. And so that's why women really can't hang out together, because they all kind of are aware of that with each other. But since they're so lonely, they'll be willing to anesthetize their indicators and ignore them and still walk into danger, even if it's at the micro level. And so I knew this, and I was given the gift of such awareness that it was torture growing up, walking into offices, people doing things that are just like, why would they do that? That's so mean. Because that's how people are, Jillian. And I'm like, that's not how you're supposed to act. You're not supposed to be, exclusive, and you're not supposed to be discriminatory, and you're supposed to be inclusive. But that's the thing. That was my naivete. And so so I would ignore my indicators and hope that people would be like, upstanding, but they never really were. They were suffering, they had issues. Oh God, and when you're suffering yourself and everybody around you is suffering, how do you, and it's not right. You can't be connected to people who are actively suffering. You really can't. It's too much of a drain. And then you get mad at those who are fucking weak. You get mad at those who are weak and innocent and completely oblivious, and you get mad at those who just don't fucking get it, because you just know what's in it for them and you want to protect them, but you can't. And then when you try to protect them, they'll come back at you and fucking tell you that you're the enemy. And so it's just so that's why I walk away from society. But I figured out that there are definitely two sets of rules in our society. And there's levels of what is it? Levels of deterrence. And you have to see what the system is trying to tell you in the movies, in the Netflix series, in the documentaries. And if you are a discerning person, when you're watching things like Ashley Madison and American Nightmare, and even what happened with Trump, and then whole JFK stuff, and then what was going on with Alex Jones and what he was trying to do, but he kind of went too far and turned his people into predators, and the system slapped him with judgments and all that stuff because he took it too far. Then you'll understand that there's a whole underbelly of society. That yes, there are people nefarious in your community, and not all the time will the justice system on the surface get people, because some people are very crafty. They work behind the scenes, they do whatever. But that's just like your immune system that has a developed antibody that knows how to evade all the different oncology. And they hide in the darkness, in the corners, and the night. And so the system really has to come down. And so watching that Austin movie, that Austin video about the killer, Rainey Street and 6th Street, and all the different people that were victims, innocent people to people who were known to be trouble for police. Yeah, when you see that kind of distribution, and those who get drunk, and then those who put themselves in situations where they get truth serum put into their drink, and then they're telling somebody their PIN number to their credit card or to their debit card. And you can't recoup resources from that because you gave somebody your PIN number, even under the influence, because you put yourself in a position to be drunk in public with all of your boyfriends and girlfriends and guy friends. And so the system wants to regulate even those who think they're the strongest. So you have a group of guys who are like, oh yeah, we're a group of guys. We're going to do whatever. We're going to go have a night on the town and be boys. Okay. So you have open drink. Somebody slips whatever drink, GHB plus truth serum. And then the strongest guy is falling all over the place. They get whisked away into the back of a white van. And they have a lot of money because they're maybe some well-known person. And they're giving up everything. And then they're found either dead or they're found on the side of the road and not with their whole memory wiped away. They don't know what the fuck happened. But they look in their bank account. They used to have 100,000, 200,000, and they're wiped clean. There's no more money. So even the strongest dudes out there who think they're infallible will get taken down by the system. The system what? The system of governance. The shadow people, right? The men in black. And so, I've cleaned up my act. And I even paid my student loan because they changed it, like the payment. If the payment goes to like 5 or 6, I'll pay with my Social Security. But right now with the Save plan, I really felt compelled because I didn't want to let it go. Because I know what happens is if you let it go and then it affects your insurance, you could be paying 137% increase in your insurance if you sit with bad credit. So I'm like, all right, if right now at this point we're okay with $62 a month, I'm okay with that until we'll see what happens later. We'll cross that bridge when we get there if I have to let it go and do whatever. But yeah, I've cleaned up my act. Like, I have no credit cards. I've helped my husband with my credit get like equity lines so we can do stuff. But so really I only have like 10,000 in actual equity, paying for equity credit, whatever that is. So that's like 100 something. So and I don't have a car. And so I don't have any addictions. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I'm not a compulsive shopper. And I'm finally realizing and living to the potential that I was given. Because all of us are given potential. Some of us live up to the potential. Others of us ignore the potential because we can't handle the pain and suffering. And so I've pretty much am living according to the law. 100%. Okay? My arm hurts occasionally, but that's just, it's not bad today. But after I did all that typing about the people in California that I'm so pissy at for treating me like fucking garbage because I had to catch up. And so for me to survive, I had to keep moving. See, when I was stemming as a kid, keeping myself moving so I could stay alive in the bed or the crib, in the orphanage or at home. But then when I was in my 20s and 30s, I had to keep moving to stay alive. Keep moving because it was in me. And so I couldn't just like sit still in a job because I had the PMS I had to deal with and have to be down for a certain amount because I kept moving and I had to rest. And sometimes that rest was like on a Monday after a weekend of being in a different environment, catching different microbes from whatever. And so people didn't fucking understand that. So they fucking treat me like shit. And that was probably one of the things, the pains in my body that I was holding on to. And so when I was eating that spaghetti the other day and it triggered the hell out of me, like it literally did. And I'm just like, yeah, that spaghetti was a trigger when I used to be PMS at home and be by myself and not go to some family event or something. Or when I would go to some family event, whether it was somebody that we used to know really well a long time ago, and I didn't prepare to buy a present for their daughter. So I bought her a gift bag that had nothing in it, but I don't know, I was not in my right mind at that time. And they already gave me weird looks. But I'm like, I couldn't go there with nothing, and I didn't have any money. I'm fucking trying to survive, and they have all the money because they've been given the gift of stability, and I didn't, and I didn't have the money to buy their daughter a fucking present. So then they get all the fucked up looks from people. Oh God, here's Jillian. She's stupid. She's unstable. And I felt those looks, and I took them on, and it fucking ate at me for so many years. And so, but I never did anything to anybody in California. My sister and I, we split apart when I left home early on, and then later we kind of came together, and it was just too unstable in our early 20s, and then maybe in our 30s, we kind of got together and realized we really couldn't hang out together because there's still too much stuff, and she was about to get married and all this other shit. And I apologize for anything that I may have done as a kid that, shit, when you had your own 9/11 as a child, when your own mother developed a situation that was contrived to see who would rise to the top. It was all fucking behavioral scientist bullshit. But we were never meant to be sisters and be connected. So whatever I had to do as a kid to survive that wasn't illegal, where I would manipulate my sister and she got all pissy and then I left home because it was too much for me and I wasn't around to protect her from whatever. That gave us a fucked up background. And then me trying to connect and be that sister that I wasn't, that wasn't going to fucking fly. It never will. So then people have a perception around me in those areas in California that know us. Oh, Jillian's stupid. Jillian's unstable. Jillian's this. Jillian's that. And they hate my mother. And so it was just like and so I've been holding on to this fucking shit of this perception of me in California. And then I get treated horribly for that. And then I go and try to do better and do the whole Jilly Juice stuff and help people. And I still get shunned and I still get fucking judged and I still get ostracized and I still get all this shit. And so I'm like, you know what? Fuck you people in California. Fuck all of you. Fuck you for being such judgmental assholes. Screw you for not understanding the bigger picture. Screw you for treating me like shit. And I never did anything to you. I hardly even barely hung out with you. We didn't have enough of a relationship for me to do anything to you, to make you act, make you act the way you fucking did to me. And then to keep me out of a eulogy when someone passed away. That's what really fucking clinched it. And that's why I still hold on to a lot of resentment of people in California. Because they were fucking unfair. And they knew how I came into this world. They were around how I came in. They knew how I came into this world. They watched it happen as far as from Vietnam and stuff. And to be treated like that fucking just burned me up. And so that was the last little residual pain and suffering of trauma of how people in California treated me. Knowing fully well how I came into this fucking world. And they still put a fucking judgment call. But they didn't have a stellar background themselves. Oh, but they're all fucking high and mighty, like they're so holier than thou, and they're so good, and their daughters are so good, and they're so good, and so I'm just done with that whole mentality. And so I really had to let that go. I had to release those demons without hurting anyone, without being mad at really anyone. And I would just block and delete whoever in the background out there and just let it go and just channel my anger through words. And that was the gift my mother gave me, was channeling my anger through the words. Because she knew eventually I'd have to deal with this bullshit. Because I would have to be the one, potentially out of probably thousands and thousands and thousands and millions of kids who've been under certain behavioral scientists. And she did it right because I was not shown violence as a child. Okay? And so when you get people who regulate, you get people who regulate through whatever, MK Ultra means of hurting somebody. And you've seen that in the past. You've watched Alex Jones stuff. And there's people that are trained to do good, that were programmed to do good. So when I can say, well, I'm so glad I was programmed to be a good person, to be an upstanding person, that was the gift my mother gave me. Because even back then, when I was facing what I could be self-medicating, like the pot and alcohol, I never did. If I had a breakup with a boyfriend, I didn't go turn to alcohol or pot. You know what I do? I would just cry. I just fucking cry. I would just fucking cry. And just let it just, and then go and do something and just go and do something different. And so that was the gift. I've always known what was right and what was wrong. Always knew what was right. Sometimes I didn't always listen, didn't always follow my own laws because I wanted what I wanted. Right? Like partying and ending up with people who are probably dangerous that I could have died in. But hey, whatever. But I survived it. And moving to state. But that was because for me to survive, I had to keep moving. Or else you're going to fucking die in any place until you're ready to face whatever. So if you can't ready to face who you are, then you keep moving until you have the stability to face everything. And that was my marriage. My marriage was the stability so I could face whatever I had to face, whatever it was. But yeah, and when you're sitting and facing your demons, shit's going to come out and you're going to have to find a way to channel it so it doesn't kill you and kill anyone else around you. And so, yeah, but I was so fucking pissed off people in California. And people that know me now here, they don't know my background. They make their judgments about me. When they look at my relationship with my husband, they think, oh, Jillian's not working. She's fucking lazy. She's this. No, there's a whole lot more than you freaking know. And I don't want my husband and myself working ourselves to a point where we back ourselves into a corner and we can't get out. I want my husband to have room to maneuver and room to pull back when he needs to and room to make as much money as he wants to and then pull back I will never want to put him in a situation where he feels he must kill himself in order to make bills, in order to keep up with somebody else. And so I purposely do what I do for a reason, not because I'm a lazy fucking bitch like people think I am. No, it's because I know what world we're going into. I already feel it in my gut. I've seen it. I've warned people about it, but they don't think I'm stupid. People think I'm stupid. Like, oh, she's from California. She's stupid. Oh, I know I get all types of judgments because I'm from California. I'm not a fucking left-wing liberal like people think. No, I'm not. I just was given the opportunity to feel shit that people don't want to feel because they're under the fucking influence and they had all their fucking immune system carved out of them. So they can't feel anything. They don't understand walking into danger. They don't get it. But yeah, so the last few months has been really interesting. So I'm just going to read this and you guys will figure it out. Because I don't need to go over what I went through when I was talking about spaghetti. But hey, you know, you got to see what it's like, why I left California. You know, people leave their small towns like Ohio to go to California so they can be themselves, because people in Ohio maybe don't accept them. But I left California because if people can't accept you in California, then you know California went way beyond. And so if I find solace in coming to a place like Ohio that people leave to go to California, then you know how far people have taken even in California. And so integrity is extremely important, which is why the Heritage Foundation will be the foundation we will need to move humanity forward to the next level of amazing evolution. I may not believe in any sort of God, but I do have a moral compass, and I do right by my society, and I clean up a lot of my bullshit and face a lot of bullshit, and I understand why people believe in God, because you need to have a moral compass, whether it's your government or some higher power. And maybe deep down, I do believe in some sort of God, but I don't actively have a religion. So if my government who keeps me accountable is my God, then so be it. Okay? And some people think, oh, the deep state's so bad. No, they're the major moral compass that even those that pretend that they're so moral. No, you're not. No, if you were to dig deep enough in your background and whatever, and what you do as far as cancer, disease, and chronic illness, you have violated the laws of life in your body, mind, and spirit, and you probably have done some things that no one knows about. But if you're to be under, like, what do you call it, a truth serum or a liar's test, or what do you call that, truth test that they do in police places, you know, they would find out you've done some shit. So you can't claim you are, like, you know, holier than thou. And so I speculate there's a shadow government. Speculate. I'm not saying there is. You can make that determination for yourself. You can live in whatever reality you want to live in. But there is a shadow government, I speculate, regulating everyone and everything. Of course, I can't prove anything, and that's the foundation of any conviction, is a clear, solid proof. So I hope you can handle the storylines and survive it. So even with the J world being immortal, for that to be convicted to be true, time is only going to tell. Time is only going to tell. Okay? And so you can't prove immortality because you can't predict the future. So you just keep facing the pain every day and you keep improving yourself. And that's pretty much it. And develop a storyline that you may or may not be able to prove. And not that you have to. But the storylines is what people want to hear and see, because that's what develops your society, is the storylines and the physics and the science and the math and the English and the biology and the chemistry. And the police know who everyone is, and so do the FBI. And that's why we live in a surveillance society. And that's why when things happen, you'll beg for surveillance in areas like party areas like Rainy Avenue in Austin, Texas. I'm telling you, watch that freaking video, because you'll be like, oh my God, like I was when I was watching the Boston bombing documentaries. When I watched Alex Jones' version of it, of the whole crisis actors and a crisis acting situation gone live. And you'll never know. You'll never fucking know. You'll never fucking know. So that's why you keep your nose clean. You don't try to be a savior, and maybe not volunteer for government type of things, because you could end up being something that would be like maybe an exercise that turned live, and you would never fucking know. And you could be held to patsy, because you're that oblivious to the world you live in. And children are used as patsies. You saw that with that guy. I speculate that guy didn't know he was a crisis actor and didn't know something went live. Alex Jones knows, but he can't prove it, and you can't make accusations if you can't prove it, but you can speculate. And speculation is a great thing to have, where you can kind of know and speak the truth because you know in your gut something is wrong, but you can't prove it. And the only way for you to convict anyone is clear proof. Okay? And since we're not in like a court of law, then it's not putting reasonable doubt. You only go into a court of law is when you can provide reasonable doubt that this was, and they're not going to put a shadow government on trial, because then you have to admit there's a shadow government. So if no one admits a shadow government, then you can't put it on trial, then there's nothing to fucking prove. So you keep your nose clean, okay? And so this is the time, this is the place, and this is the world to keep your nose fucking clean. Where did that term keep your nose clean probably come from? Well, you know, you can Google it. I didn't Google the official term, but I know that every single time that I get hit with a variant, I have to go, I blow my nose, but sometimes there's a crusty that's up here that I can feel, and I know, and I press my nose, I know this is so crazy, put your finger up your nose and you press on it, and then you will feel weird feelings. You'll feel even your body want to sneeze. And some people get nosebleeds. But that's also how I leverage the pressure down there if I need to get stuff going down there because of who knows what goes on. And so I activate my immune system up here in my nose, and then I also know how to activate down there. And so that's, you know, so you keep your nose clean up here, keep your ass clean down there, and all this other stuff. So then, yeah. So every time I get hit with some variant that inevitably will cause mucus and boogers and whatever, sometimes I have to not only blow my nose, but I also remove that mucus plug from my nose and then allow things to activate. Remember, when everyone had those Q-tips shoved up their nose for COVID PCR testing, some people had bloody noses afterwards, and then they started feeling stuff. Yeah, they activated your immune system going to those PCR testing. People think they were given COVID. No, you can't give COVID. You have it in you. The frequencies will activate things, and then the system will activate your immune system. And so the system or government activated your immune system through those nose swabs. And that was another immune system activation point at the top part of your immune system. And you have another one at the bottom part of your immune system to activate and release demons. And that was the J world. That's the poop cult, right? So the J juice activated your lower immune system, which is at some point opened up your upper immune system. And that's how you were to release demons and take in information and feed and release and feel the pain and suffering. Of course, climate change doesn't help when people have an open immune system because of the PCR test and whatever else you're doing. But that's right there was the system regulation through a storyline and a context. Oh, yeah, we have, a whole pandemic. Okay. And then let's go get a PCR test so we can test for it. And everyone was getting activated. They would line up to get activated. Those were the lines for the PCR test. But you can't take that back now. It's out there. What do you mean take that back? You've already been activated. Everybody has been activated. And the climate change and all the growth, the global warming, the growth from all the cancer, disease, and chronic illness and all that shit, yeah. COVID is real. COVID are frequencies, and you held those demons within, and they were activated. And that's why the system came down on me, because I activated your lower immune system, which inevitably would cause so much immune system activation, and they weren't ready for that yet. Some people got relief. Others were like, oh my God, I felt an event. Okay. Well, you had it within you. I preempted what was already set to happen in the future. And no matter what happens, you have to have some kind of support system, whether the medical system or through food and suffering. And the system wasn't ready for that yet. And I wasn't prepared for all that yet. So we would activate our immune system and then use colloidal silver or garlic oil to slam it down again. And so we stopped doing that. And we realized we had to get away from the medical holistic. And even those right now who are out there saying, stay away from zeolite. I'm sorry I sold it to you. I told you zeolite was all aluminum. I told you all these different detoxes were so aluminum. You're like, oh yeah, we're going to take aluminum heavy metals to go and do a chelation. I'm like, no, why would you fucking do that? Well, then they realized, oh, this aluminum is passing through the blood-brain barrier and conducting the frequencies to activate shit to then cause other shit. And so all these holistic people are finally realizing that they're selling their friends all this zeolite. And I told them a long time ago, stop fucking selling your stupid holistic shit to your people, causing them to activate certain things or set them up to fail when the climate was changing. But see, I myself and even Alex Jones knew shit a long time ago. And we warned people, but no one wanted to listen to us. They were all too much into their whatever it was. And so by the time that people know the truth, it's too fucking late. You've already sold all your zeolite. You've already done whatever you're doing. You're too far gone. You're too behind the eight ball. Maybe you could have redirected 10 years ago if you sort of did things. But so anyways, the system wasn't ready for people like me and Alex Jones. So that's why they had to really fucking slam us. And so did our peers. I even slammed Alex Jones because he's selling all the fucking supplements. Time to release the demons, Alex. Save yourself because you've done your job. But don't die for the cause. But again, I don't know how people, I don't know. But Alex Jones, you did a fucking good job. So did I. But I definitely did get the ball rolling. Now you have a choice. But you have to face your own demons or sit in denial. You know what a racket is? I learned this when I was in Landmark Education a long time ago, when I was like 19 or 20. When you have a nice storefront selling your bread, but then the guys in the back were selling pot and alcohol and other things that are against the law. So you have a nice storefront, but then there's nefarious shit going on behind closed doors, the back of the house. And that's what goes on right now. Is people are looking great in the front of the house, right? They're all like beautiful and kind and giving, but there's a fucking storm brewing in the back of the house, and it just takes you opening the curtain and peeking behind to see what's going on. And that's when you find the truth about people. Is when you set off the back of the house. And so you know what a racket is? A racket is when the front of the house must look respectable, but there's so much crap going on in the back of the house. That's the world you live in when it comes to the system governing you and some people who are nefarious. They have a nice front of the house and they look respectable, but there's a lot of evil and bullshit lurking underneath. Well, when you have people like that in your society, the government has to have something like Men in Black dealing with fake-ass people who put out a fake front, but there's a lot of bullshit in the background. Of course, you have a really dangerous, you have to really dangerous to decide to trigger the Men in Black. You have to be really dangerous in society to trigger the Men in Black. Sometimes one might be president. What do you mean? Well, you might have to be someone like president. And you think that, oh gosh, you'll save the world from whatever. And then the Men in Black come like, no, you got to do this, this, and this. Okay? I know I kind of sound like word salad, but I'm just talking so fast. Because there's so much that I have to say. And I'm telling you, the computer doesn't go as fast as my brain. Or fast as my speech. And I talk so fucking fast. It's tough. Because I sound like a fucking idiot. Or whatever, I don't care. At this point, it's too late. So yes, you have a nice constitution and a legal system to prosecute those in your neighborhood from doing illegal stuff. If the system can't get you, then the Men in Black will get you if you prove to be enough of a problem. Okay? You know who the problem children are in your society. That doesn't take rocket science to figure that out. Just look at all the people that are in jail. Look at all the wanted people. And then you have people who are missing. And you don't know if they were regulated or they were missing. You don't know what the hell. So of course you can't blame anyone's situation on cancer, disease, and chronic. Of course you can blame anyone's situation on cancer, disease, and chronic illness, or a kidnap, or GMO, or vaccines, or it was all the big pharma who took out the holistic doctors, and that's why they died. So you can have any story you want, right? And you'll never know why someone died because you've already accepted death, and you're already doing illegal crap in your body, mind, and spirit, and in your community. So if you're already doing cannabis and smoking cigarettes and doing all your surgeries and all your detoxes and supplements and doing all the things that people do to alleviate disease, and you're already violating the laws of life, eventually you're going to fucking die. And if you are a problem to society, then the system will figure out how to deal with you in a different way. If you escape the clutches of justice, the justice system. What was that? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, what does that mean, justice for all? Well, somebody's going to keep the score. If it's a Dexter. Yeah, watching Dexter, I'm like, oh my God. And then watching the Austin, serial killer in that video. And then watching the Trump thing, I'm like, oh my God. Dexter, July 13th, and the Austin killer. Holy shit. Those three things should be a fucking clue to some of you who are goddamn awake. Some of you who are completely asleep can go to your churches and hang out in your sewing groups and sewing circles and talk about flowers and shit. And that's great. You know what? Ignorance is bliss. Sometimes I wish I could be, those that can sit in a sewing circle and just talk about shit that, that I can't even get with. And so anyways, and so if you're already breaking the law in your body, mind, and spirit and in your community, the system will allow levels of Mother Nature and man control you and regulate you. And if one system can't get you, another one will. And that's why you keep your fucking nose clean and do lawful things. And you don't be a fake out there, because someone's going to see through your bullshit. And let me tell you, I see through a lot of people's bullshit. And that's why they don't like me. Because then I feel in my gut, they feel that there's resistance. And yeah, gotta part ways. Or they try to kick me into assimilation. What do you mean kick you? Oh, I've had some shit go on that I'm like, I can't believe that person did that. In front of other people too. But what are you going to do? They've been allowed to hurt people. They've been allowed to kick people. They've been allowed to hit people. They've been allowed to harm people. And so when someone sees me and I may say things and they happen to hit me and people around are like, oh, and no one wants to regulate them because they don't want to stand up to them because they're afraid of them, that's when you know that that's what happened, is that there are some pretty bullshit people out there. And so I walk away from everybody. Fuck it, I'm not going to be regulated by those who are not on the up and up. Hell no. That's why saviors, you can't save anyone because they're already breaking the law in your body, mind, and spirit. So you're just an accomplice. So just leave people alone, let them break their own laws and destroy themselves. You save yourself and get whatever absolution that is legal and lawful to you and law-abiding. But if July 13th wasn't any kind of freaking clue to the world you live in, then you seriously are living under a rock, and I hope you survive even your own illusions. And I have no proof. It doesn't even matter, but if you can't even understand the storyline, then yeah, stick to your Cinderella story and your religion, and good luck to you. But the reason why we're in climate change is because the frequency is zero activated your immune system, and yeah, raising the heat levels and temperature in your body, causing the collective heat levels to rise in your community. Then people act like freaking animals and demons out there. And just because Alex Jones and many conspiracy theorists were correct, it doesn't matter if you can't fucking survive even your own immune system and lifestyle and belief system. Just being aware and knowing the truth, whatever it is, won't make a damn bit of difference if you don't understand what it takes to live. And if you haven't watched the video about the Austin serial killer with bodies floating at the top of the water, you're doing yourself a disservice. The guy that narrated that, he used to be a drunk person. He used to be an alcoholic. He went to rehab and cleaned himself up, and now he does paranormal stuff and doing those stories about like Austin serial killer. And he had a connection to that because one of his friends ended up actually being a victim of that serial killer. And then the person was in a coma. His friend was in a coma and can't remember anything. And you see what he's wearing, that narrator, he's wearing an ankh. And that's part of the Rosicrucian. Okay? So you must know the type of people in our society. And if you're some little innocent lamb who thinks everything is fucking circus and animals, then your kid and you will walk into danger, and somebody won't survive because it will inevitably be a predator in the bushes, lurking, ready to snatch your ass. Which is why you see some of these police establishments not go after what they think is a serial killer. And so, in a lot of ways, I don't blame the police department not to go and investigate all those killings. You know why? Because people choose to go to Austin to party and be drunk and do stupid shit. People choose. But Jillian, but people, when you're developing such weak, oblivious, kind people, you know how much suffering you're actually cultivating? Why? Because they don't have what it takes to deal with climate change. At some point, they're going to walk into a situation where someone's going to take advantage of them. There are these nice guys, right? They're such good guys. They don't swear. They're so gentlemanlike. And they're so naive and so this. And so they're always hanging out with their friends. But when they get caught by themselves, or a girl on Tinder figures out how innocent and nice, or he goes and helps somebody, change a tire on the side of the road in the middle of the night. You know how much pain and suffering you're going to cause people because you got victimized and you're still alive? So if you get victimized and you die, then there's no more suffering. I mean, there is, but there isn't. But imagine when someone like a kind and gentle person gets victimized and gets so damaged, but they're still alive, but they're damaged. You can imagine what kind of predator you'll develop from that. Because what's going to happen, they might get over that situation, and others might go to therapy. They're going to have kids on top of that situation. And there's still memories of trauma and being victimized because you're so fucking naive. So then you have a kid on top of that. That kid has those memories of being brutalized by somebody who's buried underneath all the immune system. And now they just developed a generation of predators because the mother and the father were so weak and so innocent. They got brutalized, but they still survived. Okay, great. But now they're having kids on top of that. And these kids turn predatory and turn mean and turn this and that. And that's how you get predators too, is because you have some weak little lamb, whether it's a man or a woman, get brutalized by someone in society and they survive it and they have kids on top of that. Well, wouldn't you rather just take out the whole genetic line versus have some kind of person who's so fucking weak having kids on top of that, developing predators? So you almost can't blame the police department because they see the bigger fucking picture, not your little homogenized family with your illusions. So all of you need a fucking lesson. It seems like you and your world is not safe, and you are not safe, and you don't even know it. So the world will be regulated by people who make these choices they make. And if you end up in the bushes somewhere, it's because you deny the reality of the situation. And I gotta write that down. And so, hold on a second, because this is important. When you have some little lamb get brutalized by some stranger because they were so unaware and they survived the situation, the trauma is still there. And the major downside is when the person who survived the trauma has children on top of that developing predators. And that is the issue with raising little lambs led to slaughter, because once they get brutalized by their peers, the victim develops children who are extremely dangerous. And that's why the system does what it does. That's some fucking crazy shit. And so you have some little lamb get brutalized by some stranger because they were unaware and they survived the situation. The trauma is still there. And the major downside is when the person who survived the trauma has children on top of that, developing predators. And that is the issue with raising little lambs led to slaughter. Because once they get brutalized by their peers, the victim develops children who are extremely dangerous. So that's why the system is like, you know what? If you're that freaking, if you are going to make bad choices, being drunk in public and walking into danger with not knowing your surroundings, and you get hurt by somebody and you survive it, you'll be a broken person having children on top of your brokenness, and you'll have broken children and broken grandchildren and and then you have predators. And so you almost can't fault the died suddenly for what's going on. You can't fault the police departments for regulating or not regulating a serial killer in the area. People are going to get drunk and being stupid. And so we use an example. The thing about the rule of law is not the law of the jungle that will govern the conduct of nations, that everyone is held to a different standard based upon their lifestyle and belief systems and your status in the community. And even their money, and you won't know who will be held to what standard. So instead of gambling that you'll be held to a different standard than your peers, you better be on the fucking up and up. And always do the right thing all the time. And you know what that is because you know what's right and wrong. And you be an upstanding member of society. And you be an example to your children not to be a fucking asshole to everyone around you. And if you're preaching about how bad the government is, why don't you go look in your backyard and see what kind of laws you've violated and what things you've done to yourself and other people, and you clean up your own shit, literally clean up your own shit. Because the Austin serial killer covered up by the police department is a fucking lesson. The police are there to regulate idiots. Like, seriously, the police are there to regulate the idiots. They're not there to protect you from your own bullshit. They're not there to protect your kids because you as a parent couldn't fucking keep your kids in line or watch them. The police are there not to protect your little children, your little lamb children who have no experience how to keep themselves safe and not get so drunk and dance on the fucking tables, making themselves a target to some predator. The police are not there to protect all the babies you desire to have and then release them out there with no supervision. The reason why the police make a presence in the classroom to let you know someone's going to keep their ass in line because you parents won't. And man, do I see a lot of little innocent lambs out there who actually have no idea what kind of world they live in. They'll go into their sports and go into their colleges completely oblivious to how potentially deadly it is when they think about it. Because they don't understand the danger around them. They're in a high frequency climate, high climate change, hot. They have heart issues, whatever else issues. They'll die in the fucking field if that's in their genetic line. Or they'll get with somebody that looks good on paper and they go get married to some guy with a degree. And then they get brutalized in that marriage by their husbands. They'll be doing some stupid, crazy shit in their marriage and forced to have a kid and then deteriorate. But hey, that's what people want. That's fine. So the police were never there to protect you. Get that through your head. The police are there to regulate your ass. They're there to patrol. They're not there to protect you, even though they say to protect and serve. To protect the system from you, not protect you from some idiot because you can't prosecute someone who hasn't committed a crime yet, assuming you survived the crime committed against you. So the medical and holistic system regulates people who are declining and helps them leave this earth as humanely as possible. And the police will regulate you relative to how dangerous you are to society. And sometimes people work behind the scenes and you never fucking know and you can't prove it. So I suggest this summer, before we get into this next regime, you clean up your act. Some of you have left yourself wide open for so much. Clean up your act. If you can't do something right when no one's looking, you'll probably do something wrong when everyone's looking because you've already been given allowance and that's how they get you. Okay? So whatever I was doing to try to save my dog, like, oh my God, Jillian, that's so crazy. Oh my God, that's so gross. That's so this. You can't do that. Well, no shit. I tried to save my dog and I would be willing to risk the disrespect and the, oh my gosh. And I realized I couldn't. But I sat with the pain. She sat with the pain too. It fucking sucked for everybody. But I thought that maybe I can get her over if she didn't have those stupid surgeries. But I learned my lesson. And sometimes when you think that the system is allowing you to break the law, allow you to be open about what you're doing, your drug use, and all of your shit that you say on Facebook, at some point, if your crimes are that bad and they want to regulate society, you could be used as an example. So be careful what you put on Facebook. Be careful what you think the system is going to allow you to do. You better know right from wrong. If you don't, then I don't know. You'll figure it out. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say right now. I'm just like, oh. But my arms do feel better. I mean, look, arms do feel better. But I'll tell you, I mean, I'm getting the strength back, but I'll tell you, the range of motion is still, a little bit, but it's better. But I tell you, it's been freaking sore. But I woke up this morning good. I had trouble sleeping because of all the shit going on. And shit, like with, there's a lot of energy in the environment. I hear sirens and all that stuff. But there are two sets of laws. And so Mother Nature will hold you accountable. And if Mother Nature can't get you and you've violated laws in your society, then the justice system will get you if someone can prove it. But if you escape the justice system, then watch that serial killer of Austin. Because you don't know, really, how anyone dies. And then you look at the whole missing, like the FBI database of missing people. America has the highest amount of people missing. And we're the smallest country relative to other countries. What is it? Europe has 746 million. The UK has 68 million. America has 300 million. India has 1 billion. But somehow America, India has the highest amount of people coming up missing. But wait, India has 1 billion and we had 300 million. That ought to tell you that somebody's regulating somebody. A lot of kids end up missing. Yeah. Somebody's regulating somebody. Not all the time are they getting human trafficked. I mean, yeah, that happens. Not all the time is, they run away from their house and assume another identity. No. But you'll never fucking know. And that's the beauty of the rule of law. That's why George Bush was like saying, oh yeah, we're entering into a new world order. And the rule of law, the law of the jungle, will govern the conduct of nations. And when we are successful, and we will be, and that's what you have to understand. They will be, and they are successful. So fucking clean up your act. And teach your kids the world is not freaking rainbows and goddamn butterflies. Or they will be dancing on the tables thinking everything is great. And then, bam. Somebody's going to make an example out of them. And so when you watch these Netflix documentaries, like American Nightmare, and you're stepping out on your wife or husband, or you're like a Chris Watts, Nope. Somebody's going to fucking regulate you. And that's the whole Ashley Madison. The government figured out what was going on, and they exposed that whole situation. So, keep your nose clean. Bye.